Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. On Monday, we just had some grilled chicken salad. So for my chicken, I just seasoned it with some homemade adobo seasoning and I cooked it on the grill. I put it on a bed of spring mix along with some tomatoes and a boiled egg. And then for my ranch, I just mixed in a tiny bit of water so that it would drizzle easier. I got that idea from Blessed Jess. She also makes What's for Dinner videos. And I thought that was so genius. I don't know why I never thought of it before. But I'm going to show you guys how I do my boiled eggs because I know everyone does it different. And once I found this method, it was life-changing because they peel perfectly every single time and they cook perfectly. So after my water is up to a full boil, I turn my heat down to medium. Then I just very gently drop the eggs into the water. I do this using a slotted spoon and I let them cook for 13 minutes exactly. And I always have at least one egg that cracks, but it's really not a big deal because since it's being dropped in that boiling hot water, it cooks right away. After the time is up, I drop my eggs into some cold water and some ice and I let them sit for 5 minutes. And as you'll see, the shell just comes off so easy. I will never cook my eggs any other way. Since the kids won't eat salad, I made them a Tony's frozen pizza. Raleigh likes pepperoni and Boston likes cheese, so I just kind of scooted all the pepperonis to one side before I cooked it. Here's Riley's plate. I just served hers with some ranch, a mandarin orange, and some SpongeBob gummies. And then I cut Boston's up into little bite-sized pieces, and he has some blueberries and oranges. On Tuesday, I tried a new recipe called one-pan cheesy nacho casserole. So I just have a pound of ground beef that I'm cooking up, and I'm going to throw in some seasoning. So I have some salt, onion powder, garlic powder, and some taco seasoning. So I just sprinkle that all over the meat, and I will leave the exact measurements in the description box. So I just give that a good mix, and then I'm going to be draining off all that grease. After I have wiped down my skillet, I add back in the drained ground beef along with some egg noodles. These are not cooked yet. They are going to cook up in the liquid here in a little bit. And then I just add in a whole can of beef broth along with a can of chili beans, and I leave all the juices in. I don't drain anything. And then I add in a can of Fiesta nacho soup, and then I just stir everything to combine. And then I let that come up to a boil, and then I turn my heat down to medium-low and just let it simmer for about 12 minutes, stirring often. Now that everything is cooked, I'm going to be adding in a cup of shredded sharp cheddar cheese, and I'm just going to stir that and let it melt. And then the final step is to just sprinkle a little bit more cheddar cheese on top of the casserole. And then I just crushed up some tortilla chips and I let that sit for a few minutes and it is done. I topped mine with some sour cream, and I am so glad that I gave this recipe a try because it was absolutely delicious. All four of us really liked it. It wasn't spicy or anything, so it's definitely a keeper. On Wednesday, we had leftovers from the day before, but I did make a blackberry cobbler for dessert. So I washed my blackberries and then I just added them to this big bowl. And then I also added in a half a cup of sugar. And then I stirred everything so that all the blackberries were coated. And then I just let those sit for 30 minutes. So now I'm going to start working on the batter. So to my bowl, I'm just adding some flour, baking powder, and some salt, along with a half a cup of milk. And then I'm just going to whisk that together good. And then I'm going to be adding in some melted butter. I'm going to stir that, and that's it for the batter. So now I have my casserole dish out that I'm going to be spraying with some Pam. I am cutting this recipe in half, so this is a smaller dish, even though it doesn't look it on camera. But I'm going to be adding in my batter to the bottom. And then I'm going to swirl it all around just to make sure that everything is covered. And then I'm going to start topping it with the blackberries and all of that leftover sugar. And then you just let it bake at 375 for 40 to 45 minutes. And I served our bowls with a scoop of vanilla ice cream. On Thursday, I made some Parmesan crusted chicken, and I served it with some peas and some cabbage and some broccoli and cheese rice. I'm just using this Knorr's pasta side cheddar broccoli rice. And I am going to show you guys how I made the chicken and the cabbage. So for the cabbage, I just cut it into quarters, and then I take the hard parts out of each wedge, and then I just slice it up. And then to a large pot, I add in some olive oil and some butter, and then once that butter gets melted and the olive oil has heated, I just start adding in all of my cabbage. And then I am just going to stir that to make sure that everything gets coated well. And then I'm going to be seasoning it up with some salt, pepper, red pepper flakes, and some garlic powder. And then I'm going to add in 2 cups of water along with 2 chicken bouillon cubes. Then I just let that come up to a boil, and then I turn my heat down to low and I let it cook for about 40 to 45 minutes because I like mine super tender. So for the chicken, I have 2 breasts that I have cut in half, and I'm just going to be dolloping some mayo on each chicken breast, and I was super careful to not touch the chicken with that spoon because I didn't want to contaminate a whole jar of mayonnaise. But after I have that done, I just spread it all over the chicken breast, and then I top it with some shredded Parmesan cheese, along with some panko breadcrumbs. Normally I use Italian breadcrumbs, but I was completely out, so I just swapped it for the panko, and I also seasoned it with a little bit of garlic salt and some pepper since the panko doesn't have any seasonings. And then I just let it bake at 425 for 20 to 25 minutes. On Friday, I tried another new recipe for Stromboli, and I made a whole separate video on this recipe, so I will link that in the description box if you haven't checked it out yet. It's definitely another keeper. I served it with a side salad with tomatoes and cucumbers, and I did end up getting some pizza sauce to dip the Stromboli in. On Saturday, I made some Airfryer Bagels, so to this bowl, I have added some flour, baking powder, and some salt, and I just give that a good whisk. And then I add in a whole cup of plain Greek yogurt. And this is a Weight Watchers recipe. I don't do Weight Watchers, but I have made this before and it turned out really good, so I wanted to make it again. But that Greek yogurt gives these a lot of protein, and these are pretty low calories. So anyways, I just stir that to combine, and then I get a big piece of parchment paper and I lightly flour it. And then I just put the crumbly mixture on top of it, and I knead it together until it forms into a ball. And then I just cut the dough into 4 equal sections so that it can make 4 bagels. And then I just roll them out into these log shapes. And then I just kind of twist them up into a bagel shape. I had preheated my air fryer at 325 for 12 minutes. Meanwhile, I have an egg wash here. You're supposed to just use egg whites, but I use the whole egg. And I just rub it on each bagel. So now I'm just transferring the bagels to the air fryer, and I was in a hurry, so I completely forgot that I needed to add a small piece of parchment paper to the air fryer first so that they wouldn't stick. So they did end up sticking a little bit, but the bottoms didn't come off or anything, so it wasn't too big of a deal. I let those cook at 325 for 12 minutes, and while those were cooking, I got started on some hash browns that I cooked in my waffle iron. So I just heated up the griddle, and I sprayed the bottoms and the tops with some Pam so that nothing would stick, and then I started adding my frozen tater tots. So I just filled this up completely, and then I dropped my lid, and I just let it cook until it looked done, until it looked crispy. Now the bagels are done, and they look more like biscuits because, like I said, I was in a hurry, so I didn't roll them out long enough, but that's okay. I just made these into breakfast sandwiches anyways. So I split those open, and I cooked up some fried bologna and some fried eggs, and then I put a slice of cheese on there, and those hash browns turned out so good. They were super crispy. I will definitely be making it like that again. On Sunday, we went to our friend's house and we ordered some Pizza Hut, and they also had a snow cone machine, so after we ate, we also had some snow cones. And excuse my roughness, we just got out of the pool. But anyways, that wraps up this week. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope that you got some inspiration for your meal planning. Thank you so much for watching, and I will be back next week. Bye, guys.